Who married a Midianite in the biblical tradition? Very important. Who? Moses. Moses married a Midianite, and Moses' children were children of Midianites. Okay? Ephah and Avedah and Elda'ah, these are all names that are associated with Arab locations in Arabia. Some of them are settled oases in the desert, and some of them are names of gods or ancient people that we know from Arabian genealogy. If we move down to verse 12, we'll see a reference to Hagar, who is defined here, identified as an Egyptian, and the names of her sons are Ishmael, and then Nevayot. These are the children of Ishmael, Kedar, Duma, Hadad, Tema, Yetur, Nafish, and Kedma. Now, these are names that are not very familiar to you, except maybe one there. How many people know a Hadad? Anybody know here people whose last name is Hadad? And what's their national background? Lebanese, somebody said. What else? Syrian, anybody know? An Egyptian? Hadad is an Arab name, and it's an Arab name here as well. The reason why there's so many Hadads still to this day is that the word Hadad means smith. It's true. Okay, so that's interesting. Maybe it's interesting. Here we have a close relationship between Abraham and his descendants, at least this line of descendants, who represent pastoral nomads, Arabs, and they're in a relationship that is both symbiotic, they need one another, and there's also a relationship of tension. Now, where's the symbiotic relationship here? Something very interesting. I think you'll find this, I find it anyway, very interesting. How does one worship in the ancient world? Through, what's the ritual of worship? Sacrifice. And in the Bible, there is a statement, a reference to what the sacrifice should be for God. There is a term in Hebrew. It is reach nichoach, which means a calming smell. Now, if any of you have been at the location of a burning sacrifice, you'll probably have known that it doesn't really smell like barbecue in the backyard. It smells like burning flesh and hair and entrails. It's not a pleasing odor. It's not pleasant. So in the archaeology of temples in the ancient world, you have the Holy of Holies where the gods dwelt, similar kind of arrangement also in the temple in Jerusalem. You have the sacrificial altar where the animals are sacrificed and burned, and in between you have an incense altar, so that the gods will smell the good smell instead of the unpleasant smell of the burning of the sacrifice. Now, where does incense come from? There's no incense grown in the Mediterranean area. Incense all comes from, you notice this here? Incense coast? Incense derives from South Arabia. South Arabia. And there are some words there in the genealogies that relate to South Arabia. Go back to that first paragraph. Sheva is Sheba, probably the place where the queen came from as well. Hadramaut, we don't have it in this genealogy, but one of the genealogies in the Bible has Hatzar Mavet, which is probably, it really is clearly a Hebrewisation of the Arabic word Hadramaut, which is a region, and those are the regions in which incense was grown. Then incense had to be transported north from here up into the Mediterranean. It went to Gaza, which was the closest port, and then it was sent around the Mediterranean to all the places where polytheistic sacrifices were held and where biblical sacrifices were held in the land of Israel as well. Who transported that incense from the south? Arab transporters, and Arabs in the south grew that incense. Now, in the ancient world, there was a location right here, halfway between the south and the north. We call it Mecca today. It was an ideal place for the Teamsters Union of the ancient Arabian world to have their headquarters, because it was in a perfect location to transport material from the south up into the north. And so, in the ancient world already, Mecca seems to have been a center for the camel caravan business. We have a reference to that business in the Bible. So if you look to page 2 here, you'll see Isaiah 60. This is a reference, this is a prophecy of what's going to happen in the future. Dust clouds of camels shall cover you, camels of Midian and Ephah. And by the way, Midian and Ephah were children of Abraham in these earlier genealogies. They shall come from where? Sheba, Sheva. And they shall bear gold and incense, and shall herald the glories of the Lord. All the flocks of Kedar shall be assembled for you. The rams of Neviot shall serve you. Kedar and Neviot are also in the genealogies, children of Abraham. So we have this relationship already.
إن أول بيت وضع للناس للذي ببكة مباركا وهدى للعالمين.
Psalms 84 speaks about pilgrimage to a place called Baqqa, which is another name for Makkah, and says, "Blessed are those who do pilgrimage there." Also in the Septuagint reading, verse number 6 reads in the following way, "Here the lawgiver shall give blessings." The only lawgiver to turn up in a place called Baqqa, where people do pilgrimage, was Prophet Muhammad. This passage confirms the Quran's statement regarding a prophet and scripture and pilgrimage occurring among the descendants of Ishmael.
لقد من الله على المؤمنين إذ بعث فيهم رسولا من أنفسهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين.
Still to Mecca they come, mankind, the people of Islam dressed in their pilgrim white, all equal before God, all united in this place of prayer, each individual soul joined in a community of worship. One God.